You never know when a single moment can tilt the axis of your world. For me, it was a fleeting encounter in the shared bathroom of Oakwood Hall, a place that smelled of cheap soap and damp tile. I was barely awake, toothbrush in hand, when the door swung open without warning. What followed was the beginning of something I couldn't name. A slow, quiet unraveling of everything I thought I knew about connection, desire, and the fragile line between friendship and something more. My name is Ethan, and this is the story of how one awkward morning became the most disorienting, exhilarating, and transformative chapter of my life. Oakwood University was a sprawling campus nestled in the hills, its brick buildings draped in ivy, its quad alive with the hum of students rushing to classes or lounging under maple trees. From the outside, it was a postcard of academic charm. Inside the dorms, though, it was a different story. Doors slamming, music pulsing through thin walls, the chaos of too many lives crammed into one building. I'd moved into Oakwood Hall at the start of my junior year, reluctantly trading my off-campus apartment for the college experience. I craved solitude, the kind where I could lose myself in books or music without interruption. Sharing a bathroom with 20 other guys wasn't my idea of progress, but the rent was cheap and I needed to save. Then there was Caleb. He was impossible to miss. Tall, with dark curls that fell into his eyes and a laugh that carried across rooms, he was the kind of person who made friends without trying. He was in my psychology seminar, always sitting in the back, scribbling in a worn leather journal instead of taking notes on his laptop. I noticed him because he never seemed to care what anyone thought. Whether he was late to class or arguing with the professor about some theory, he was unapologetically himself. I didn't think he knew I existed until one rainy afternoon in the campus bookstore. I was flipping through a used copy of The Great Gatsby, headphones around my neck, when I felt someone beside me. "Ethan, right?" a voice said. I looked up, startled. Caleb was leaning against a shelf, a lopsided grin on his face, holding a soggy umbrella. "You're in my psych class. You always answer the questions no one else gets." I blinked, caught off guard. Yeah, I just pay attention, I guess." He laughed, a warm, easy sound. "Mind if I borrow your notes sometime?" I zoned out during the lecture on cognitive dissonance. I hesitated, then nodded. "Sure, just don't lose them." "Deal," he said, his eyes crinkling with a smile that felt too genuine to be casual. "I owe you. Coffee's on me." That was how it started. A borrowed notebook, a coffee date that wasn't really a date, and a series of coincidental run-ins that stopped feeling coincidental. When Caleb found out I lived in Oakwood Hall, he grinned like he'd won a bet. "No way. I'm in 3B right down the hall from you." And just like that, he became a fixture in my life. The rhythm of Oakwood Hall nights in the dorm were a symphony of noise and quiet moments. Someone was always blasting music, arguing about whose turn it was to take out the trash, or hosting an impromptu pizza party in the common room. Caleb thrived in it. He'd wander into my room with an excuse, need a charger, your desk lamp's brighter, or I'm bored, and end up staying for hours. He had this way of filling space without overwhelming it, like he knew when to talk and when to let silence settle. "You're too quiet." "Ethan," he said one night, sprawled across my desk chair, spinning a pencil between his fingers. "What's going on in that head of yours?" I shrugged, pushing my laptop aside. "Just thinking." "About what?" He pressed, his tone light but curious. "Everything." "Nothing." "You know." He tilted his head, studying me. "You're like a locked book. Gotta find the right key to get you to open up." I laughed, but his words stuck with me. No one had ever called me a mystery before. I wasn't trying to hide anything. I just didn't know how to say what I felt half the time. The morning that changed everything. It was a crisp October Saturday, the kind where the air smelled like fallen leaves and possibility. The dorm was quiet, most residents still passed out after a late-night party. I'd woken up early to beat the rush for the showers, toothbrush in mouth, steam clouding the bathroom mirror. I was humming some indie song I couldn't get out of my head, my towel slung over the rack, when the door flew open. Caleb stood there, bleary-eyed, wearing a faded band tee and sweatpants, his curls a mess. For a split second, we both froze. My toothbrush clattered into the sink. "Shit, sorry," he stammered, his face flushing. "I didn't know anyone was in here!" I snatched my towel, wrapping it around my waist. "Ever heard of knocking?" He rubbed the back of his neck, laughing nervously. The door was cracked. "My bad, man." I tried to play it cool, but my pulse was racing. His eyes lingered on me for a moment. Too long. Maybe, before he muttered, "I'll, come back later," and backed out. Closing the door, I stood there, heart pounding, staring at my reflection in the fogged-up mirror. It was just an accident, a stupid, embarrassing moment. So why did it feel like the air had shifted? The shift, we didn't talk about it the next day, but something was different. Caleb still showed up at my door, still teased me about my color-coded notes or my obsession with black coffee, but there were new layers to our interactions. A brush of his shoulder against mine in the hallway, a glance that lasted a beat too long, a joke that felt like it carried a question neither of us was ready to ask. One evening, we ended up on the dorm rooftop, a spot Caleb had discovered during freshman year. The sky was a deep indigo, stars just starting to prick through. We sat on the ledge sharing a bag of sour gummy worms, the city lights flickering in the distance. "You ever feel like you're waiting for something?" he asked, tossing a gummy into his mouth. "Like what?" I said, brushing sugar off my hands. "I don't know. Something bigger. Something that makes all this—" He gestured vaguely at the campus below. "Feel like it means something." I looked at him, his profile sharp against the night sky. "Yeah," I said quietly. "I think about that a lot." He turned to me, his eyes soft but searching. "What do you want, Ethan? When you strip away all the noise?" I opened my mouth to answer, but the words caught in my throat. I wanted to say something profound, something about purpose or truth. But all I could think about was how close he was, how his voice made my chest ache in a way I didn't understand. "I don't know," I admitted, "but I think I'm starting to figure it out." He smiled, small and knowing, and for a moment, the world was just us and the quiet hum of the night. The movie night a week later, Caleb invited me to his room for a movie night. His roommate was gone for the weekend, so it was just us, a laptop propped on a stack of textbooks, and a bowl of popcorn that was mostly kernels. He'd picked Moonlight, a film I'd heard about but never seen. As the story unfolded, quiet, raw, and achingly human, I felt Caleb's presence beside me, his arm resting on the bed, inches from mine. Halfway through, during a scene where the characters sat in silence, sharing a moment that said everything without words, Caleb spoke. "Do you think it's possible?" he asked, his voice low. "What?" To feel something like that. With someone you didn't expect. Someone who gets you. I swallowed, my eyes fixed on the screen. "Yeah," I said. "I think it happens when you're not looking for it." He didn't respond, but I felt his gaze on me. When I finally turned, his expression was unreadable, vulnerable maybe, or hopeful. The movie played on, but I barely heard it. All I could feel was the weight of his question, the possibility hanging between us. The journal that night, I couldn't sleep. I pulled out my journal, a habit I'd picked up in high school and never shaken. The pages were filled with half-formed thoughts, lyrics, and questions I didn't know how to answer. I wrote, "Caleb sees me in a way no one else does. Not the quiet guy in the corner, not the kid who always has the right answer. He sees the parts I don't show anyone. And it scares me because I want him to keep looking. I want to know what it means to be seen like that. Toby wanted like that. Is it friendship? Is it more? I don't know. But it's real and it's terrifying. Be wanted like that. Is it friendship? Is it more? I don't know. But it's real. And it's terrifying." I closed the journal, my hands trembling. For the first time, I let myself wonder what it would be like to cross that line, to reach for his hand, to say the words I was too afraid to speak. The festival, the turning point, came during the university's fall festival. The quad was transformed into a maze of fairy lights, food trucks, and live music. Caleb dragged me there, insisting I needed to loosen up. We wandered through The crowds, sharing cotton candy and laughing at the overly enthusiastic dance team performing near the main stage. Later, we found a quiet spot under a tree, the music a distant thump. Caleb was quieter than usual, picking at the grass. "Can I ask you something?" he said finally. "Shoot. Do you ever feel like you're hiding who you are? Like, there's a version of you that you're scared to let out?" My breath caught. I knew what he was asking, even if he wasn't saying it directly. "All the time," I said, "but I don't know how to stop." He looked at me, his eyes steady. "You don't have to hide with me, Ethan. I see you, the real you, and I like what I see." My heart stopped. The noise of the festival faded, and it was just us, the air thick with unspoken truth. I wanted to say something, anything, but before I could, he reached out and brushed a piece of cotton candy sugar from my cheek. His touch was soft, deliberate, and it sent a jolt through me. "Caleb," I started, my voice barely above a whisper. He shook his head, a small smile on his lips. "You don't have to say anything. Not yet. Just think about it, the confession." The days that followed were a blur of stolen glances and nervous energy. We still hung out, still laughed, but every moment felt charged, like we were dancing around a truth neither of us was ready to name. Then, one night, Caleb showed up at my door, soaked from the rain, his journal clutched under his arm. "I wrote something," he said, his voice shaky, "for you." He handed me the journal, open to a page filled with his messy handwriting. I read, "Ethan, you're the quiet in my chaos. The thing I didn't know I was looking for. I don't know what this is, but I know I don't want to lose it. I'm scared, but I'm more scared of not saying this. I think I'm falling for you, and I hope you're falling too." I looked up, my eyes stinging. He was watching me, vulnerable in a way I'd never seen him before. "Caleb," I said, my voice breaking. "I'm scared too, but I feel it. I've felt it for a while." He stepped closer, rain dripping from his hair. "So what do we do?" I laughed, a nervous, shaky sound. "I don't know, but I want to find out. With you." He smiled, and for the first time, I saw the same uncertainty in him that I felt in myself. We didn't kiss, not yet. But we stood there closer than we'd ever been, the rain a soft curtain around us, and I knew this was the beginning of something real. Epilogue. You never know when one moment will change everything. For me, it was a bathroom door left unlocked, a toothbrush dropped in a sink, a pair of eyes meeting mine in a cloud of steam. My name is Ethan, and this is the story of how Caleb, a boy with a lopsided grin and a leather journal, walked into my life and made me question everything I thought I knew about friendship, attraction, and love. It's messy, it's terrifying, and it's ours. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. This version introduces Ethan and Caleb, shifts the setting to Oakwood University, and adds new scenes, the rooftop, the fall festival, the journal confession, to deepen the emotional arc and extend the narrative. The core themes remain intact, with a focus on subtle tension, self-discovery, and the slow build of a meaningful connection. Let me know if you'd like further tweaks or additional scenes. It was one of those autumn evenings where the air smelled of damp leaves and possibility. The campus quad was quiet, save for the rustle of wind through the maple trees and the distant hum of a coffee shop playlist. I was sprawled on a bench outside the Humanities building, headphones around my neck, pretending to read The Great Gatsby for my literature seminar. Truth was, I hadn't turned a page in 20 minutes. My mind was elsewhere, tangled up in the way Noah had looked at me earlier that day. Noah, my roommate of 2 years. My best friend since we'd bonded over late-night ramen and a shared hatred of our dorm's moldy showers. He was the kind of person who could make a room feel brighter just by walking into it. Messy auburn hair, freckles across his nose, and a laugh that was equal parts contagious and disarming. We'd always been close, but lately something had shifted. A glance that lingered too long. A brush of hands that felt deliberate. A question left unspoken. That morning, we'd been in our cramped dorm kitchen fighting over the last of the cereal. He'd poured it into his bowl with a triumphant grin, and I'd rolled my eyes, shoving his shoulder playfully. But when he turned to rinse his dish, his sleeve rode up, revealing the faint scar on his wrist from a skateboarding accident sophomore year. I don't know why I stared. Maybe it was the way the morning light caught the edges of his hair, or the way he hummed under his breath, oblivious to my gaze. He caught me looking, and for a split second, our eyes locked. Not the usual quick, friendly glance. This was deeper, searching, like he was seeing something in me I hadn't even admitted to myself. Later that night, we ended up in the common room, sprawled on the worn-out couch with a bowl of popcorn between us. Someone had put on Before Sunrise, that romantic indie film about two strangers falling in love over one night in Vienna. I'd never seen it, but Noah swore it was a masterpiece. Halfway through, as Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy wandered through cobblestone streets, Noah turned to me, his voice soft against the hum of the TV. "You ever think people like us could have something like that?" I blinked, caught off guard. "Like what?" He hesitated, his fingers fidgeting with a popcorn kernel. "Love, the kind that just hits you, with someone you never saw coming." The room felt smaller suddenly, the air thicker. On screen, the characters were confessing their fears, their hopes, their fleeting connection. I swallowed, my throat dry. "I don't know," I said, barely above a whisper. "Maybe. Sometimes it just happens." He looked at me then. Really looked. His hazel eyes held mine, and for a moment, the world, the flickering TV, the distant laughter from the hallway, the weight of my unread Gatsby, faded away. Neither of us spoke, but something inside me cracked open, a quiet ache I didn't have a name for. When the credits rolled, we mumbled goodnights and went to our separate rooms. But I didn't sleep. I lay in the dark, replaying that moment, his voice, the way he'd said love like it was both a question and a confession. The days that followed were a strange dance of normalcy and tension. Noah and I still did everything together, grabbing coffee at the campus cafe, studying in the library until the librarians kicked us out, sneaking onto the rooftop to watch the stars. But now every interaction carried a new weight. A brush of his knee against mine under the table. The way he'd nudge my foot with his when we laughed. The way he'd say my name, Eli, just a little softer than before. One crisp October afternoon, we ended up at the lake just off campus, a hidden spot surrounded by pines where students went to escape. The water was still, reflecting the fiery reds and golds of the trees. Noah skipped rocks across the surface, his hoodie sleeves pushed up, his movements easy and practiced. I sat on a fallen log watching him, my sketchbook open but untouched. I was supposed to be working on an art project, but all I could draw were the lines of his jaw, the curve of his smile. "You ever think about just leaving?" he asked suddenly, tossing another rock. It skipped 4 times before sinking. Like packing a bag and disappearing. No classes, no expectations. Just you and the open road. I raised an eyebrow. "You skip classes? You're the one who color codes your notes." He laughed, but there was an edge to it. "I'm serious, Eli. Sometimes I feel like I'm playing a part. Like everyone's watching, waiting for me to be the Noah they expect. The funny guy. The guy who's got it together." He sat beside me, close enough that I could smell the pine and coffee on him. "Don't you ever feel that?" I hesitated, picking at a splinter on the log. "Yeah, sometimes. I guess I just keep it inside." He turned to me, his expression unreadable. "You do. You're like a locked book, Eli. You listen, you care, you notice everything. But you don't let anyone in." "Not really," my chest tightened. "How do you know?" "Because I see you," he said simply. "I always have." I wanted to argue, to tell him he was wrong, that I was just me. Ordinary. But the way he was looking at me, like I was something rare, something worth unraveling, made the words die in my throat. I looked away, my heart racing, afraid he'd see too much. That night, a storm rolled in. the kind that shook the dorm windows and sent everyone scrambling for cover. Noah showed up at my door, soaked from the rain, holding 2 mugs of hot chocolate. "Made it just how you like it," he said, grinning. "Extra marshmallows," I smiled, stepping aside to let him in. "You remembered?" "I pay attention," he said, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. We sat on my floor, backs against the bed, the rain drumming against the window. The hot chocolate was too sweet, the marshmallows melting into a gooey mess, but it was perfect. We talked about nothing. Classes, the terrible dorm food, the professor who wore mismatched socks. But the air between us was charged, every word laced with something unspoken. "You were weird today," he said eventually, setting his mug down. "At the lake." "You barely said anything," I shrugged, avoiding his eyes. "Just tired." "Eli." His voice was gentle but firm. "Talk to me," I swallowed, my hands fidgeting in my lap. "It's stupid." "Try me." I took a breath, the words clawing their way out. "When you said that stuff about pretending, about leaving, I don't know, it hit me, because I feel it too, all the time. Like I'm waiting for something to change, but I'm too scared to make it happen." He was quiet for a moment, his gaze steady. "And what if you did? What if you stopped waiting?" My heart pounded. "What do you mean?" He shifted closer, his knee brushing mine. "What if you let yourself feel what you're feeling? Whatever it is." The room felt too small, the air too warm. I could feel the heat of him, the weight of his words. "Noah, The room felt too small, the air too warm. I could feel the heat of him, the weight of his words. "Noah, I'm not asking you to have answers," he said softly. "I'm just here, with you." For a moment, I thought he might lean in. His face was close, his breath warm against my cheek. My pulse was a drumbeat in my ears. But then a loud crack of thunder made us both jump, and the moment shattered. He laughed, nervous, and I laughed too, the tension easing but not gone. "You should go," I said, my voice shaky, "before the storm gets worse." He stood, lingering at the door. "Eli?" His eyes were soft, searching. "Next time, maybe we don't let the storm stop us." Then he was gone, and I was left staring at the door, my heart a riot of hope and fear. The next few weeks were a blur of stolen moments and unspoken truths. We'd study together, our chairs a little closer than before. We'd share earbuds on the bus, his shoulder pressed against mine. We'd lie on the rooftop at 2 a.m., passing a bag of chips back and forth, talking about everything and nothing. But Noah started pulling back. He'd cancel plans, claim he was swamped with assignments, spend more time with his soccer teammates. I told myself it was nothing, that he was just busy. But the doubt crept in, sharp and cold. One evening, I found him on the soccer field, sitting alone in the bleachers, the sky a bruise of purple and orange. I climbed the steps and sat beside him, my hands stuffed in my jacket pockets. "You've been dodging me," I said, keeping my voice light. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I'm not, I just needed space." "Space from what?" He looked at me, his expression raw. "From this, from us, from whatever's happening." My stomach dropped. "There's no us, Noah, not if you don't want there to be." He laughed, bitter and soft. "That's the problem, Eli. I don't know what I want. Or I do, and it scares the hell out of me." I wanted to reach for him, to tell him I was scared too. But instead I said, "You don't have to figure it out alone." He nodded. But his eyes were distant, and the silence between us felt heavier than ever. A week later, the dorm's power went out during a late November snowstorm. The halls were dark, lit only by phone flashlights and a few scattered candles. Everyone piled into the lounge, a chaotic mix of blankets, snacks, and someone's portable speaker playing lo-fi beats. Noah and I ended up on a sagging couch, our shoulders touching, a blanket draped over our knees. "This is like a movie," he whispered, his breath warm against my ear. I smiled. "Just needs the part where the heroes stop overthinking." He chuckled, but there was a tremor in it. "Maybe they're scared to ruin everything." "Maybe they're braver than they think," I said, my voice barely audible. He turned to me, his face inches from mine, the candlelight flickering across his features. "Eli," he said, his voice low, "if I say what I'm thinking, it changes everything." "Then say it," I whispered. He took a shaky breath, his hand finding mine under the blanket. "I'm falling for you, Eli. I have been for months. And it's terrifying, but it's real." The words hit me like a wave, warm and overwhelming. Before I could respond, the lights flickered on, the room erupting in cheers. But I'd heard him. Every word. I turned to him, my heart in my throat. "I heard you," I said. "And I'm falling too." His smile was small, nervous but real. He squeezed my hand, hidden beneath the blanket, and for the first time the fear felt smaller than the hope. Love, I've learned, isn't a single moment. It's 1,000 small ones woven together until they're unbreakable. For Noah and me, it was the way he'd saved the last marshmallow for me, the way he'd hum my favorite song without realizing it, the way he'd look at me like I was the only person in the room. It wasn't easy. We were two guys in a small college town, navigating curious glances and whispered rumors. There were nights we argued, nights we doubted, nights we wondered if we were enough. But there were also mornings like the one after the blackout, when Noah showed up at my door with coffee and a shy grin. "For last night," he said. "For everything." We sat by the window, watching snow dust the campus, our knees touching. "Did you mean it?" I asked. "What you said?" "Every word," he said, his voice steady. "And I'm not going anywhere, Eli, not unless you want me to." I reached for his hand, my fingers tracing the scar on his wrist. "I don't want you to. Love wasn't simple. It was messy, fragile, and brave. But with Noah, it was ours. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid to let it be." The first time I saw Alex cry, it was over a spilled cup of coffee. Not the liquid itself, he'd laughed when it splashed across his sketchbook, but the ruined drawing inside. A charcoal cityscape, half-finished, now bleeding gray rivers down the page. He stood in the dorm kitchen at 2 a.m., shoulders hunched, staring at the mess like it had betrayed him. I'd come for water. Instead, I handed him a roll of paper towels. "It's fine," he muttered, but his voice cracked. "It's not," I said. "Let me help." He didn't protest when I knelt beside him, blotting the page, salvaging what I could. Our fingers brushed over the same wet corner. He didn't pull away. When the worst of it was cleaned, he looked up. "You didn't have to." "I wanted to," I said. Simple, true. That was the beginning. Not fireworks. Just two guys in a fluorescent kitchen, saving a drawing that would never be the same. Alex was the art major who wore paint like cologne. I was the engineering student who measured everything twice. We shared a wall, his room on one side, mine on the other, and a mutual hatred of the 8 a.m. lecture hall. We started meeting there by accident, then on purpose. He'd sketch the professor's terrible ties. I'd explain torque and stick-figure comics. We passed notes like contraband. His handwriting was all loops and slashes. Mine was graph paper neat. Somehow they fit. One Thursday, the power went out during a storm. The dorm plunged into black. I found him in the hallway with a flashlight under his chin, making shadow monsters on the wall. "Scared?" he asked. "Terrified," I lied. He grinned. "Good. Come on." We ended up on the roof, rain drumming the tin awning, city lights flickering below. He pulled a thermos of spiked hot chocolate from his backpack. We drank in silence until he said, "My mom thinks I'm wasting my life on doodles." "Your mom's wrong," I said. He looked at me, surprised. "You always say that, because it's true." He leaned his head against my shoulder. Just for a second. Then the lights came back on and we pretended it never happened. But it did. And it kept happening. Little things. His knee bumping mine under the library table. The way he'd save me the last slice of pizza without asking. How he started signing his text with a tiny pencil emoji. I started leaving him origami cranes on his desk, crude ones, but he kept every single. Then came the night that almost broke us. We were at the fall art showcase. Alex had 3 pieces up, huge canvases, bold and messy and alive. I stood in front of one titled Fault Lines, a city cracking open to reveal a heart made of subway maps. He found me there, cheeks flushed from nerves and cheap wine. You like it? I love it, I said. And then, because the room was loud and my filter was gone, I love... He kissed me before I finished. Quick. Desperate. Right there between the sculptures and the string quartet. When he pulled back, his eyes were wide. Shit, I'm sorry. I kissed him again. Slower. The room didn't stop, but it blurred. We didn't talk about it after. Not that night. Not the next day. He avoided the dining hall. I avoided his eyes. By Sunday, the silence was a third person in every room. Monday, he showed up at my door with a paper bag. Inside, 2 burnt croissants and a note. I'm an idiot. Can we talk? We walked to the quarry behind campus, the one students weren't supposed to know about. He sat on a rock, knees to chest. I freaked out, he said. Not because of you. Because of everything. My dad's a cop. My brother's getting married to his high school sweetheart. I'm the artsy one. If I bring home a boyfriend... He trailed off. You don't have to bring anyone home, I said. But I want to, he whispered. I want to be the guy who doesn't flinch when someone asks who I'm texting. I want to post a photo of us without captioning it, Brothers in Christ. I just don't know how. I sat beside him. We'll figure it out, together. He leaned into me. You make it sound easy. It's not, I said. But it's worth it. We started small, holding hands in the back row of the campus cinema, letting our knees touch during study group. He changed his lock screen to a photo of us at the quarry, my arm around his shoulders, both of us laughing at something stupid. He didn't tag me. He didn't need to, then someone else did. A girl from his painting class posted a candid, us sharing earbuds on the quad, his head on my shoulder. Caption, heart eyes for days. It blew up. Group chats, snaps, a professor even emailed Alex congratulations on finding his muse. That night, he paced my room like a caged thing. They're making it a thing. It is a thing, I said. I know, but he stopped. What if my dad sees? Then he sees, I said. And we deal with it. He looked at me like I'd grown a second head. You're not scared? Terrified, I admitted. But I'm more scared of pretending. He sat on my bed, head in his hands. I don't want to lose you. You won't, I said. But you might lose yourself if you keep hiding. He was quiet for a long time. Then, okay. The next morning, he posted the quarry photo himself. Caption, this is Ethan. He's my favorite person. No emojis. No explanation. Just truth, the fallout was mixed. His brother unfollowed him. His mom called crying, not angry, just confused. My parents sent a care package with rainbow cookies and a note. We love you both. Bring him for winter break. Some people stared in the dining hall. A few asked invasive questions. One guy muttered something under his breath in the gym. Alex heard. He didn't flinch. He just laced his fingers through mine and kept walking. Spring came. We painted his dorm room walls, 1/2 circuit diagrams, 1/2 murals. He taught me to mix colors. I taught him to solder. We fought over thermostat settings and whose turn it was to buy coffee. We made up on the roof under the same awning, trading kisses like secrets. Graduation loomed. He got into a residency in Berlin. I got a job offer in Seattle. We sat on the quarry rocks again, the ones that had seen our beginning. I don't want to do long distance, he said. Me neither, I said. He pulled out a folded paper, his acceptance letter, annotated in red pen, deferred 1 year. I can reapply next cycle, he said. Seattle has galleries. And you, I stared. You'd do that? I already did. We moved into a studio apartment with windows that faced west. He painted the sunrise every morning. I built bookshelves from scrap wood. We fought over closet space and whose turn it was to do dishes. We made up on the fire escape, city lights flickering below like the night we began. Years later, at his first solo show, I stood in front of a new piece, Fault Lines 2. The city was whole now, heart-stitched with gold. In the corner, tiny initials, E+A. The plaque read, "For the boy who taught me courage isn't the absence of fear. It's choosing love anyway." After the opening, we walked home through the rain. He stopped under a street lamp, pulled out his old sketchbook, the one from the coffee spill. The cityscape was gone, but on the next page, a new drawing, us, older, gray at the temples. "Still holding hands. Remember when I thought this was ruined?" he asked. I kissed him, tasting rain and possibility. Best accident of my life. Love didn't begin with a grand gesture. It began with a spilled cup, a paper towel, and two boys brave enough to say stay.